Bonjour les garçons. So in the video of today, I would like to discuss with you something that is not very difficult, but I guess it is always nice to revise, to review, like what I would call the core foundation. So that thing today is discourd indirect, also known as indirect speech in English. In this video, I would like to focus on le discourd indirect présent. Why présent? Because if we deal with passé, the tense will affect the verbs in the sentences, and I don't want to deal with that. What I want to do instead is just focus on le discourd indirect présent and how the sentences are built. So, let's take a look at the pictures we have here. We have two boys. Let's pretend the first boy is called Carl and the second boy is called Simon. So Carl here is saying that he's revising. Je révise. Simon, on the other hand, is going to repeat what Carl is saying. Il dit qu'il révise. He says that he's revising. So basically, in the first occurrence, when Carl speaks, je révise, Carl is using the discourd direct speech because he says directly what he has to say. On the other hand, Simon is repeating what Carl is saying. So Simon is using le discourd indirect. So what does this mean? This simply means that you will use discourd direct, discourd indirect. Well, you will use, discourd indirect when you want to repeat what someone is saying. It is that simple. Okay? So when thinking about verbs that that will be used for discourd indirect, you think about verbs such as penser, right? Je pense. You think about verbs such as demander, ask. You think about ignorer, ignore. You think about verbs like affirmer, like to say, to pretend. You think about verbs like expliquer, ajouter, to add something. What else? Répondre, to answer. You think about these kind of verbs. What else? Annoncer, to announce. See? All these verbs will require, they will be used for indirect speech. I'm going to put this right here. I'm going to minimize this, put this here, and put this here. So now let's take a look at the different cases of indirect speech. I'm going to write down some direct speeches first, and then we will try to change them into indirect speech. I'm going to start with an affirmation, a very simple one that is true actually. J'ai faim. I am hungry. J'ai faim. This is one affirmation. I'm going to write a second one, which is going to be what we call in French une question fermée, a closed question. So a question only requiring you to answer yes or no. Tu es français? Are you French? Tu es français? Okay, I'm gonna put this one here. Now I am gonna ask. I am just gonna have a question with a question word in the question. So, tu habites où? Not even just tu es où? Where are you? Tu es où? That's okay. And finally, I'm gonna ask a question with qu'est-ce que. Keep in mind that qu'est-ce que means what. Qu'est-ce que tu fais? Qu'est-ce que tu fais? What are you doing? Qu'est-ce que tu fais? And let us see how this will be used in indirect speech. So now let's try to work with our first sentence. J'ai faim. I am hungry. I say that I am hungry. Very simple. This is an affirmation. Whenever you want to say something, you want to make an affirmation in French, you will use que. Je dis que j'ai faim. I say that I am hungry. Now, there is a mistake that often occurs. What if someone repeats what I'm saying, and people always forget to change the subject? Il dit, obviously, is saying that he's hungry. I have to change the subject here, right? Il dit qu'il a faim. This happens a lot. I've seen it before, so be careful. You need to know what and who you are talking about. Il dit qu'il a faim. This is one first example for j'ai faim. That's for affirmation. You will use que. Let's take a look at the second case. The case when you have a question, a simple question, question fermée, question that requires a yes or no answer, oui ou non. Tu es français? So in this case, the person is asking me, right? Is asking me something. Il demande, is asking if you are French. Is asking if you are French, right? In French, we are going to use the si. Il demande si tu es français. Pretty simple, right? So this is not something, well, these are not things you don't really know, hopefully. So I will just skip that very quickly. Tu es où? In this case, we have what we call a question word. In French, un mot interrogatif. The question word is the following, où, meaning where, and this is going to be, again, demander, right? A question. So I'm going to stick with demander, and I'm going to say, il demande is asking where you are. Il demande où tu es. So in this case, you will notice that nothing changes. You just use the same question word that you have in your question, and you use it as a conjunction for the indirect speech. Okay? Now, please notice that tu es où can also be sometimes, right? In French. Où es-tu? And in this case, you still have to follow the pattern we used here. We have to use the subject first and the verb second. You cannot say il demande où es-tu. This also happens a lot, and this is not correct. This is not possible. Okay, keep this in mind. Finally, I'm going to finish with actually what to me is the main difficulty of indirect speech. It is answering question with que, qu'est-ce que, and qu'est-ce qui. So in this case, guys, this is going to change. Qu'est-ce que? Qu'est-ce que tu fais? Once again, I am asking, so I'm going to stick with demande. Or maybe, oh yeah, okay, no, I'm going to stick with that. Il demande is asking what you're doing, right? But what you are doing, we cannot use qu'est-ce que. We have to use a different thing. Don't ask me why, that's just the way it is. Il demande ce que tu fais. And this is what the main difficulty is. You might have this in the second, in the paper 2, when they ask you to rephrase some sentences. You might have a qu'est-ce que, and you have to use a ce que if you are required to write in the indirect speech. Sometimes you're going to have a question with qu'est-ce qui. Qu'est-ce qui est? What is? Okay? Qu'est-ce qui? In this case, the same thing happens. Ce qui, right? If they ask you what's happening, il demande ce qui se passe. Okay? Il demande ce qui se passe. This is also a possibility that you should consider. Okay? Il demande ce qui se passe. He's asking what is happening. As a matter of fact, whenever you want to use what for indirect speech, you should think about ce que, right? Because il dit que means he says that. So que is not what. Be careful. I'm going to show you one example. She explains what she wants. Elle explique. Elle explique qu'elle veut would not be correct because que is, what is ce que. Elle explique ce qu'elle veut. She explains what she wants. You get it? And here you have it. Elle explique ce qu'elle veut. So these are the difficulties for indirect speech. So I'm just gonna make a quick table that will summarize all the things we've seen today, okay? If you don't mind. Let me just delete all this. And here is our table, and it goes like this. So whenever I use an affirmation, je mange, I'm going to use que. Je dis que je mange, right? Whenever I want to change a question fermée, so question that requires yes or no as the answer, I will use si or if. Question ouverte, open question. I will use the same words. I will use où, qui, quand, comment, etc. Right? And finally, see, these two que are not the same. So whenever I have que in my question, or qu'est-ce qui, qu'est-ce que, I'm gonna have to use ce que or ce qui, right? I can say whatever I want. I can say what I want. Je dis ce que je veux. I can eat what I want. Je mange ce que je veux. Okay? So basically, this will always be what in your indirect speech. All right? And finally, a last thing I did not cover. It is using the infinitive. If I have an infinitive like these two, imperative like these two, viens, écoute, come, listen. The indirect speech is going to be de with the infinitive. Il te demande de venir, and il te demande d'écouter. It is as simple as this. If it has been quite clear, I hope it has. I would like you to try and do the exercises on page 157. Try to see how it goes, and if you have any question, please feel free to ask me in class.